Yeah, good morning, everybody. Let's begin the class. Okay, today we are going to discuss about biogas production. So, biogas. What is the biogas? So, biogas is nothing but a mixture of gases produced by the breakdown of organic matter in the absence of oxygen. So, anaerobic conditions are required in order to produce biogas from the organic matter. Any organic matter we can use. So biogas can be produced from raw materials like agricultural waste, manure, municipal waste, plant materials, sewage, green waste, or any food waste. So biogas is classified under the renewable energy. So it can be easily replenished. So this is renewable energy which is beneficial for the growth of a society. Then biogas is produced by anaerobic digestion with methanogen or anaerobic organisms. So anaerobic organisms like various methanogenic bacteria or acetate bacteria, etc. we can use here, which required only anaerobic conditions. So biogas is usually produced in a closed system, or we can call it as a biodigester or a fermenter. We can call it. So it will whatever which we are providing using the help of with the help of methanogenic bacteria or acetogenic bacteria, like any type of anaerobic microorganisms can be used. So biogas is primarily which has a composition of CH4, which is methane, and carbon dioxide. It will also contain hydrogen sulfide and moisture and siloxanes. So these are the side products, whereas the primarily the biogas is composed only of methane and carbon dioxide. So then, how the biogas can be a replacement for the conventional economy? So how in rural economy, especially this biogas, is helpful? We have to study this one. So this biogas is nothing but a fuel, or we can directly say that it's a biodegradable fuel, or it is a renewable fuel. So it will meet the energy demand of many countries, many developed as well as underdeveloped countries. So our India is a developing country. So biogas technology is very much important for us. Also, our India is an agrarian country. So farmers, many farmers are there. So this biogas technology will obviously help them in order to meet their domestic demands as well as commercial farming demands. So India is also one of the pioneer in the biogas technology. So Uttar Pradesh is the first state which has established a permanent and first gobar gas research stations in the National Sugar Institute, Kanpur. I already said you this one. The first biogas or a gobar gas research institute was established in the National Sugar Institute, which is in Kanpur. So we are also a pioneer in this biogas fuel technology. That biogas technology is a particularly useful system in rural economy. So in the rural economy, where there is primarily the source of income primarily depends on the agricultural activity economy, the biogas technology will play a major role. So it is useful as a fuel for the substitute for firewood, dung, agricultural residue, petrol, diesel, electricity. Okay, depends on the nature of whatever the task that particular rural area is applying. That will be a perfect replacement. The biogas will be a perfect replacement for example, firewoods or dung, agricultural residues, diesel, petrol, electricity, whatever the rural activities are dependent, all the rural activities can be replaced with the use of a biogas technology. So it is useful to boost out the Indian rural economy. So obviously the biogas, after producing the biogas, whatever the manure left, when we are giving some cow dung or some organic waste to it, some of the manure or a digested after digestion, whatever the material is there, waste material is there, it is not at all a waste, because they can also be, it is a major nutrient source for the animal feed or for the fertilizer also. We can use it as a fertilizer because it is very enriched content. It has a very enriched content of ammonia. So biogas system also provide a residue organic waste after anaerobic digestion that has a superior nutrient qualities over the usual organic fertilizers. So usually whatever the organic fertilizers they are applying, NPK fertilizers or anything, so they are synthesized. But this fertilizer, which is rich in a other nutrient as well as ammonia source, will be a very useful for the fertility, for the for the farming activities. So this obviously this organic fertilizer will have a superior nutrient quality compared to other organic products. So biogas can also be used in the diesel powered engines or with certain modifications or dual fuel engines. Okay, nowadays it is very much important to use the dual fuel engines so that uh, we can handle that particular engine can handle a gas as well as the diesel. Whatever the input we are giving, that particular engine can handle both the fuel mechanisms. So apart from the various direct benefits, it can also have a various other benefits, like in the rural women's life. Okay, it is very important for them to gather fuel woods. Okay, many women are going to gather whatever the firewoods they are finding out in the forest or in the rural area. So it will be very helpful. The biogas will be very helpful in order to reduce the impact which they are putting, the energy which they are putting in gathering this firewoods or wood gathering activities will be lowered by using the biogas. So biogas technology is very simple. So using this simple technique, they can able to replace, they can able to obtain many of the direct as well as benefits. So biogas is obviously a clean gas or a clean or a particulate free gas or a pollution free gas, we can say, because it is obtained through the biological activities of a natural organisms. So it is a biodegradable gas, or it can say, we can say it as an eco-friendly gas. So this eco-friendly gas used can be used in many other activities also. Then it will reduce the likelihood of chronic diseases. As we know, many women in the rural areas, they used to just combust the firewoods or the wood for the fuel purpose. So when they do that one, they will catch many of the diseases when they directly combust those biomass-based cellulose compounds or biomass-based whatever the wood components. They will catch many of the diseases like we can say respiratory infections due to the combustion activities, the liberation of CO2, carbon monoxide, even the harmful carbon monoxide or H2S can be released. So this will just cause many infectious diseases in the whoever combusting those in the uncontrolled environment, whoever combusting those firewoods. So, for example, they can um, acquire the respiratory infections and lung infections as well as bronchitis, asthma, lung cancers, and increased severe coronary artery diseases. Even the heart diseases can also be caused by just inhaling those uncontrolled combustion of firewoods. So it will reduce, this biogas technology will obviously reduce the likelihood of chronic diseases. These chronic diseases can be lowered using the biogas technology. And this biogas technology can increase the agricultural productivity. As we all said, as we said that fertilizers, it will produce a many nutrient rich organic fertilizers. So agricultural activities and productivities will obviously will boost up using the biogas technology. Therefore this biogas technology will have many useful benefits, direct as well as indirect benefits also. So this biogas technology is very much important, especially for the India, which is yet to be a developed country, or we can call it as a developing country. So because of these developing activities, the biogas technology will replace the usual fuels like petrol, diesel, or the common firewoods, which many people used to gather for their domestic activities. So biogas technology will obviously a good candidate to replace the many types of firewoods or many types of conventional fuels. Then what are the benefits? Okay, benefits of biogas. So biogas is used mainly for cooking and lighting purpose. Okay, in the rural economy, it is very important. Obviously, we cannot see in the urban areas because lighting and cooking activities here, we have a many comforts like a piped gas network or a 24 hours lighting system, 24 hours electricity supply. But whereas in the rural economy or the rural India, there is no they can't access the electricity for 24 by 7, and at the same time they can't access the pipelined gases like LP and everything. They obviously depend on the this type of innovative technologies like biomass or biogas conversion technologies. So biogas is used mainly for cooking and lighting purpose in mainly in the rural India. Okay, we can use in the urban urban agglomeration also, but this has a very limited this finds a very limited activity in the urban India, whereas in the rural India we can see many of the biogases manufacturing plants in and around the many villages. So the biogas can be used in internal combustion engines to power pumps of electricity generators. Whatever the electricity generators are there, those generators can be powered using this biogas. Okay, so engines needs a certain internal modification. So obviously we are using in the whatever the engines we are using in our bikes or in our cars, etc. All are the internal combustion engines only. So these combustion engines need certain modifications in order to handle the this biogas, because biogas will have a low calorific value compared to the conventional fuels. So in order to adjust to that calorific value, we need certain small modifications, so that that modification will be adjustable inside that engine and it can operate based on the biogas. Okay, nowadays we can see many cars are there. They are dual powered engine, meaning they can operate on the petrol, they can operate on the diesel, or they can operate on the gas fuel LPG also. Many are just fixing the cylinders inside their cars, because the engine is manufactured in such a way that it can be operated on the LPG as well as the liquid fuels. When the gas fuel is not available, they can operate on the liquid fuels like petrol or diesel also. So the internal combustion engines needs a certain modifications so that they can handle both type of gases as well as liquid fuels. So the next benefits of these biogas is sludge obtained in the biogas production can be used as a fertilizer. Okay, in a nutshell, we can say this is a nutrient rich fertilizer compared to other organic fertilizers. This is very nutrient rich. Therefore, the agricultural production activities will obviously increase, and the production of a fertilizer, production of crops will be obviously increased using this nutrient rich biogas or a biomass. Um, Biomass sludge. Then the next benefit will be most economically benefits or minimize environmental pollution and meet the energy demand efficiently. So since this is the eco-friendly gas, okay, there is a large, it is clean combustible gas. Whereas when you see in the petrol or diesel, when those compounds will burn, whatever the compounds will burn will leave some of the residues like coke inside the combustion engines. We can say some of the gases will produce like carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. With the incomplete combustion, we can obtain a carbon monoxide. With a complete combustion, we can obtain a carbon dioxide. All these gases are nothing but a greenhouse gases, so they will cause certain pollution. If you take example in our in our cars or in our bikes, we use the engine oil. We use engine oil? Because when we burning the petrol or diesel, it will produce certain soot. Soot is nothing but a coke. Okay, coke will be deposited around the engines wherever the particular fuel is combusting, in and around wherever the fuel is burning. There residual compounds like a soot will be left out. This engine oil, what it does is it cleans the engine from inside, so that the soot will be just go outside of that engine. Purpose of engine oil is to reduce the soot formation. Okay, to clean out that engine. Like when we are using this biogas, we need not to go for the engine oils and everything, because gas is obviously possess a clean burning characteristics. Okay, compared to LPG also, this biogas will also have many advantages, like it is eco-friendly, it does not produce any of the soot components, it will be completely combustible. So obviously the energy efficiency will be increased. So energy demand efficiency will obviously increase by using the biogas. Okay, these are the four benefits. We can just summarize this one. Then what are the feedstocks required for the biogas manufacturing, biogas production? So feedstocks will be a biomass. Obviously, it can be a source of plant-based biomass or the animal-based biomass. So plant-based biomass can be obtained using the apple pomace or deteriorated or dumped wheat grains, municipal waste, plant materials, sewage or green waste or food waste. Whatever the organic matter is there, we can dump into the biogas digesters. So can some of the bacteria will act upon that one. So plant sources are as follows, and whereas animal source of biomass is cattle dung. Okay, majorly a cattle dung, which we can call in the rural area as a gobar. or we can call this biogas as a gobar gas. So these are animal-based biomass and plant-based biomass examples. Then apart from this, we have to supply a bacteria. So, in order to digest this organic matter, we have to supply certain bacteria, like bacteria including acetic acid forming bacteria, acetogens. So some of the acetogens we supply, like Clostridium, we can supply. Then methanogenic bacteria, many methanogenic bacteria are there in order to produce the methanes from this acetate, or we can say glucose. In a nutshell, we can say that is a glucose. Glucose is converted to the acetate, like acetic acid. Then this acetic acid or methanol, whatever the alcohol or acetic acids are produced inside that digesters, will be converted to methane by the various methanogenic bacteria. So methanogenic bacteria will come under the category of archaea. Okay, archaea are the prokaryotes, you know that. So all these bacteria will just require anaerobic conditions inside it. So the stages of the biogas production. Okay, there are popularly four stages in the biogas production. One is a hydrolytic phase. This one is a hydrolytic phase in which first these are the raw materials. Raw materials, what are the organic materials are there? Uh, the inside composition will be a cellulose, starch, or protein, or some lipids will be contained. Whatever the biomass materials, whether it may be an animal source or whether it may be a plant source. So whatever the compounds are there, the common composition of those biomass materials will be this one. Obviously, one of this will be present, or all of the four will, can also be present. First, these lipids, whatever the compounds are there, these components needs to be transformed to a low molecular weight or a soluble products, some organic acids. So how does it takes place? So hydrolytic phase will handle those conversion of these high molecular weight compounds like cellulose, starch, protein, lipids into a low molecular weight compounds, which are obviously soluble components, and other organic can also be produced, like acetic acid can also be produced. Okay, so these have many advantages in the hydrolytic phase. Certain flocculating anaerobic bacteria. So flocculating anaerobic bacteria, we can say this one, Clostridium thermocellum or Clostridium stercorarium. These are two of the bacteria I can list out from this. If you want anything additional, you can search on the web and we can find out what are the hydrolytic phase bacteria. Like this Clostridium category compounds, bacteria can be used in the hydrolytic phase in order to convert these four types of raw composition, biomass composition to a low molecular weight soluble products and organic acids. Then this low molecular weight soluble organic acids will be converted to a many many organic acids and gases like H2, CO2, and some alcohol. So it will be called as a acidifying phase. So in the acidifying phase, so whatever the uh, organic acids forms will be here in the acidic phase. The more of the organic acids will be formed together with the liberation of other gases and alcohol, like methanol can also be liberated here, like H2 and CO2. Then after forming whatever the organic acids, alcohol or H2 or CO2 form, will undergo a acetogenic phase. Using the acetogenic bacteria, acetogenic bacteria like acetogens. So acetogenic bacteria will call as acetogens. So these acetogens will convert whatever the compounds like alcohols, organic acids like acetic acid, this H2, CO2, everything to the acetate. So here, if you see this alcohol, for example, methanol will be formed. This methanol can be converted into one molecule of methane along with one molecule of CO2. Then further, this CO2 will be just combined with the hydrogen formed using the acidifying phase and will form a CH4 with the liberation of two molecules of water. Then whatever the acetates are there, whatever the formates are there, these formates can also be transferred into the methane, as well as this alcohol, methanol can also be transferred into the form of methane. So whatever the gas is liberated will just act upon a chain reaction. Mm, this CO2 further combines with the hydrogen in order to liberate the CH4. So the major composition will be in a biogas will be a CH4, and to some extent it will be a CO2. And apart from this, the hydrogen is there, since they will also form some sulfur bearing compounds in the organic matter. If some sulfur bearing compounds contains, then it will form hydrogen sulfide also. So like this, we can say the overall reaction, okay, whatever these are there, cellulose, starch, proteins, lipids, everything will comes under the category of glucose, nothing but the sugars. These sugars, this is the overall reaction. This glucose can be transferred into the CH4 and CO2. So the major composition of biogas is these two compositions only. If the organic matter contains some of the sulfur bearing compounds, the sulfur bearing components will be combined with the hydrogen, then they can form a, then there is a possibility to form a hydrogen sulfide to a minimum extent. Whereas the maximum extent, the glucose, all the glucose compounds like cellulose, starch, proteins, and liquids will be converted to this methane and carbon dioxide. Then after the acetogenic phase, all the acetates are converted like CH3, COOH, whatever the acetates are formed, like the formates and everything, will be just converted to a methane gas using the methanogenic bacteria. So methanogenic bacteria, some of the species I can list out here. So Methanobacterium omelianski. So this is one type of methanogenic bacteria we can use. Other M. formicicum. This is another type of methanogenic bacteria, and M. branti. This is also a methanogenic bacteria, and Methanocercina burkeri. This is also a methanogenic bacteria. This type of methanogenic bacteria can be used in order to convert whatever the formate and acetates formed in the acetogenic phase to the methane in the methanogenic phase. So we can summarize the first one is the raw material supply stage. Here the raw materials range from the animal based to the plant based. All the animal based and plant based materials will contain the internal composition commonly as a cellulose, starch, protein, and lipids. These all the high molecular weight components will be transferred to the low molecular weight soluble products and other organic acids. So this transformation phase is called a hydrolytic phase. In hydrolytic phase, many of the Clostridium species bacteria will play a major role in converting the molecular weight compounds into the low molecular weight soluble products. Then these low molecular weight soluble products and organic acids needs to be converted into further more organic acids and some alcohol with the liberation of hydrogen and carbon dioxide. Then this phase is called a acidifying phase. Then after the acidifying phase, the next stage will be acetogenic phase. What happens in the acetogenic phase? Certain bacteria, like acetogens, will convert whatever the alcohols, hydrogen, carbon dioxide using the following reaction to the acetate, to the form of acetate. Then formed acetate. So formed acetate, okay, formed acetate will be just this acetic acid uh, will just reduce it to the methane gas in the methanogenic phase. So methanobacteria like Methanobacterium omelianski and M. formicicum, M. branti, and Methanocercina burkeri. This type of species, bacterial species, will be used in order to convert the acetate to the methane. So this phase is called, the conversion of acetate to methane phase is called a methanogenic phase. There are two phases. One is hydrolytic phase, acidifying phase. Next one is acetogenic phase, and fourth one is methanogenic phase. So these type of all the phases are present. So if we neglect all these phases, we can see the outer reaction will be this one. From the glucose itself, the direct synthesis of methane, the reaction will be this overall reaction. Glucose will be just break down into the molecules of methane and carbon dioxide using this following reaction. When we go into the detail, all these four phases can be observed. So this is so stages involved in the biogas plant we just referred, and the biogas overall plant, how it looks like. We have to see this one. So in the this is the example of already installed biogas plant. In detail, when you see this one, so technically the biogas plant will looks like this one. Okay, whereas physically the outer side of the biogas will looks like this one. So aerobic digestion. So this is called a digester or a digester column or biodigester we can call. So this anaerobic digestion. So all the bacteria, whether it may be hydrolytic phase, acetogens or the methanogens, everything required an anaerobic condition. So we need to hold this digester in a airtight container, or we can call this biodigester as a airtight container. We need not to supply the air inside it. So after living 2 to 3 weeks, that anaerobic bacteria. So if we properly made possible not to get a aerobic condition inside it, we can have a methane, good biogas, quality biogas with a large composition as a methane. Otherwise, when we supply this oxygen, excess oxygen to it, whatever the composition of biogas will be mainly a carbon dioxide. So other gases will be formed. So we have to supply a anaerobic conditions inside the inside this digester. So anaerobic digestion is carried out in a airtight cylindrical tank, which are called digesters. So these are called digesters. This is anaerobic cylindrical, whether it may be whether it may be yes, cylindrical tanks will be there, not a spherical. So a digester is made up of a concrete brick steel. So we can use this as a iron, steel, or something using bricks also. We can manufacture this biogas plant, but the necessary conditions only the anaerobic conditions. Okay, if there is a possibility to let in some of the oxygen component in the concrete, then we have to go for the iron. Oh, okay, whether we can provide the anaerobic conditions using the concrete or a brick composition, we can use the concrete or brick composition. So the digester will have a inlet. So digester will have a So digester will have an inlet attached to a mixing tank. So this is a mixing tank inside one. So digester will have a inlet to this mixing tank for feeding cow dung or whatever the organic raw material, whether it will be from the plant source or the animal source. For feeding that one, there will be a tank will be there. This is the inlet tanks. Through this inlet tank, all the cow dung or whatever the organic matter is coming will be stored inside this reservoir. After storing this, we will let inside this digester according to our requirement. Okay, usually this reservoir will lie on the upside. So you can see this is a reservoir. So from this reservoir, it will be transferred, and if you in this physical plant, and after digesting, so gas will be coming out from this one. So this is the outlet for the gas. So this outlet is same this one. Here, if you see the in the technical diagram, the flow sheet, you can see this is a gas outlet. So this is gas outlet in the physical system. So whereas here the reservoir, this one, so the reservoir, this reservoir is nothing but this one in the physical system. So obviously what we want, how our requirement depends on how much we are storing and how much the gas is available depends on that. The reservoir inlet will be just open, and whatever the organic matter which we are supplying will be let inside this digester. Then the methanogenic bacteria from other digester are also added with cow dung. So along with the organic matter, we can add from the other digester will also be there. Otherwise, we can just mix a total composition here in the reservoir. We can let inside this digester. Then the digester is attached to a movable gas holding or storage tank with a gas inlet. So whatever this pulley is there, so depending on the pressure inside that one, this pulley will move on the upside. So the major role of this pulley is to just add some of the weight so that the perfect anaerobic conditions can be maintained inside. When the methane or the CO2 gas is formed, it will act a pressure inside it. So that depending on the pressure, this pulley will just be released. So this is a movable gas holding reservoir. So this pulley will automatically just move upon when they find some of the internal pressure. The user slurry or the spent cow dung we can call, then the user slurry comes out from the digester through an outlet. So in the digester, the outlet is there. After digesting whatever the organic material inside it, this that organic material will just thrown outside this from this outlet. This will called as a manure. This manure is a rich source of nutrients, as well as a rich source of ammonia, which is very much useful for the fertility of in the form as a fertilizer. Then the process of digestion usually takes place about 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks, this digestion will takes place when cow dung is used as a substrate. When simply we use a cow dung here, the process will take place 2 to 3 weeks. When we supply that some of the complex organic compounds like papers and everything, this needs certain certain time to digest. Depending on what the raw material you are supplying, that particular incubation time will vary. For roughly the incubation time for the cow dung is 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, whereas when we use some of the complex organic matter, um the incubation period or the gas formation period will be obviously high. Okay, by finding out some of the we can list out the temperature can be in between 30 to 40 degrees centigrade will be ideal for the formation of biogas. Whereas 2 or 3 research papers are there, they are saying 50 to 60 degrees centigrade uh, um, will be very beneficial for the biogas, for the formation of biogas. Okay, lot of research papers they are saying only 30 to 40 degrees centigrade are ideal for the biogas formation. So obviously, when we are studying about the different types of species, below 37 degrees centigrade, or we can say below 40 degrees centigrade, are very much beneficial for the growth of a bacteria. So we can say the 30 40 degrees centigrade will be an ideal temperature of formation of biogas, we can say. And the pH required is the basic condition pH we have required. So the ideal condition will be 6 to 8 pH. So since this is the mithrogenic bacteria, they are required a basic condition inside it. So a lot of research papers are saying around 6 to 8 pH for formation of biogas from various organic matter, whether it may be a cow dung or whether it may be some of the paper compounds or some of the grass compounds or whatever the organic materials we are supplying. Depending on the pH will be 6 to 8%, 6 to 8 pH. So depending on whatever the raw materials we are supplying, that particular pH and that particular temperature only we can select in that one. It's a slurry composition. So whatever the slurry are there, solid to water. So we need to just in the hydrolytic phase. The first one is the hydrolytic phase, nothing but hydrolysis phase. In the hydrolytic phase, the bacteria used will be this one. So in the hydrolytic phase, we need to dilute that organic matter, whatever the strong organic matter is there. So we need to dilute that one. So that slurry composition, water to solid to water composition will be 1:1. So by the weight ratio, we need to add one uh, solid to water ratio. So after adding all these conditions and putting all the airtight conditions inside this digester, after 2 to 3 weeks, when we use a cow dung as our substrate or as our raw material or as our biomass source, then in 2 to 3 weeks we can successfully obtain the biogas. It's a composition of CH4 and CO2. Through this pipeline, we can obtain the biogas. It can supply to the many sources, whether it may be a domestic purpose or whether it may be running inside the agricultural fields, running the engine inside the agricultural field. Whatever end use is there, we can use this biogas. Then what are the factors which are affecting the biogas production, or we can say as a major engineering problems which we can encounter in the biogas production. So first one is obviously the temperature and pH. So ideal temperature according to many research papers is 30 to 40 degrees centigrade, while the pH is 6 to 8 for a good yield. So depending on what type of raw material, what type of biomass source we are using, depending on that for the particular system, initially we have to study what ideal temperature for that particular raw material and particular system we are going to synthesize the biogas. And pH also same thing. We have to just initially confirm which is the ideal pH and which is the ideal temperature range for our selected biomass. Then only we can successfully produce. So this is one of the major engineering problem in order to study the temperature and pH, which is ideal for our particular system, and at the same time maintaining that ideal temperature and pH is also a challenging issue in the biogas production plant. Then the slurry composition, whatever the slurry is there. So slurry we need to prepare 1:1 solid to water slurry, and at the same time the carbon source. Okay, I already said many of the a carbon source and nitrogen source. So carbon source or a glucose source is nothing but this biomass. Biomass is a glucose source or we can say carbon source. So both are same. So carbon source we are supplying. So then we have to supply some nitrogen source. So how to supply that nitrogen source, like ammonium sulfate, ammonium phosphate, whatever the ammonium components are there, it will come under the nitrogen source for the successful growth of that bacteria. successful growth of that microorganisms, we need to supply along with the carbon source or a glucose source, we need to supply a nitrogen source. So how that nitrogen source will be fixed? When we are supplying 30 parts of a carbon source or a 30 kgs of a biomass, we need to supply 1 kg of a nitrogen source, like a ammonium phosphate we can supply. So that the bacteria will consume this nitrogen source as well as the glucose source like biomass. Then only the slurry, that particular slurry can be able to produce the methane under the optimal conditions. So the maintenance of slurry composition is also very important, and also the good mixing and stabilizing the organic content is also required. So good mixing. So when we are preparing a slurry with water and solid, and with solid and nitrogen, okay, here this carbon is there. Whatever the carbon is there, here the solid. These both are same. So carbon source or glucose source or the solid source or the biomass source or everything source in the everything same raw materials. Okay, here the carbon, whether we are referring to it as a carbon source, or whether it may be we are referring to a solid source, or whether it may be we are referring to a glucose source, all the sources are same. Initial raw materials are called carbon source or the solid source or the biomass source. Okay, initial raw material this one. So depending on this initial raw material, we need to fix the water content, and depending on this initial raw material, we need to fix this nitrogen content. So the water content and solid content needs to be supplied in 1:1 ratio, and carbon and nitrogen sources will be supplied in a 30:1 ratio. And the proper mixing of this slurry is also very important. So we need to verify it whether it is properly mixed or not. So then anaerobic conditions. So obviously this methylogenic bacteria or acidogenic bacteria, every bacteria will require an anaerobic condition. So we need to suppress the oxygen going inside that biodigester. So perfectly maintaining the anaerobic conditions is a challenge for whoever producing the biogas. So we need to fix this one. Whether we required the cement and brick composition for the construction of biodigester, or whether we required a iron or a steel building materials for the construction of this digester. We need to fix initially depending on the particular environment, how fast is the air is flowing, how that air is going inside, whether that particular construction material is letting inside the air composition inside that construction material or not. We need to just verify that one depending on the particular environmental condition over the biogas plant. Then the presence of inhibitors will largely affect the biogas production, like inhibitors like ammonium sulfate. Okay, ammonium sulfate is one of the nitrogen source. When we excessively supply this ammonium sulfate nitrogen source for this bacteria, which will have a adverse effect on the methane production. And at the same time, antibiotics. Okay, since in the raw materials we are referring to the organic material, whatever the organic materials are there, it can contains n number of species inside it. Okay, in the rural India, or whether it may be in a urban source, whatever the agglomeration is there. Okay, many members will use antibiotics for the treatment of cold, fevers, and everything. Many people are used to for these antibiotics. Whatever the antibiotics are they are taking, they can just throw into this organic matter. So presence of these antibiotics and with the excess amount of ammonium sulfide will inhibit the methane formation. So methane formation will largely be inhibited when these compounds like ammonium sulfate and antibiotics are there. So then agricultural waste, pig and chicken manure generate large amount of ammonia and waste from paper such as rich in sulfate, inhibit biogas production. See, when we are using a chicken manure, so it has the ability to generate ammonia. Okay, large amount of ammonia. It is generally very useful for the fertilizer, but it is harmful for the formation of biogas. So it will inhibit the formation of biogas, whereas this generating ammonia is very much beneficial for the manure, for that organic waste we can use in the fertilizer as a fertilizer. Then when we use the paper materials, so paper materials using paper manufacturing, lot of sulfate components will be used, like sulfate process, like cracked pulp process. In the pulp preparation process, lot of sulfate chemicals will be used. So because of these sulfate chemicals, the paper will acquire some of the sulfate compounds. When we are using our raw materials as a waste paper, they will contain certain sulfate compounds. So they will inhibit the biogas formation and they will form the H2S. By consuming hydrogen inside that biogas digester, using this sulfate, they will form H2S. Large part of H2S will be formed. But our primary goal is to form a large composition of methane, and to some extent it is a CO2. But we need not require the formation of H2S and certain siloxanes or other compounds. So we need to suppress this one. So we need to verify whatever the organic matter, whatever the raw material we are supplying to the biogas plant also. So we need to select the initial raw material in such a way that it could not contain large amount of ammonium sulfate, and it could not contain antibiotics, and it could not contain much amount of chicken manure, and it could not contain large amount of waste paper. Okay, when they are containing the large amount of these compounds, there is a possibility that they will generate ammonia gas inside the biodigester, and at the same time there is a possibility that it will convert to the H2S, hydrogen sulfide, when we use a large amount of waste papers. So we need to verify that raw material also. So maintaining the accurate raw material to suppress the inhibition of biogas formation is also very important. It's also a major engineering challenge for operation of biogas plant. Then the next factor or a major engineering problem is the presence of complex materials. So many of the complex materials are there. So compared to cellulose, lignin is very hard material. As I already said, if you verify the plant stem, just cut off the plant stem. Whatever the inside creamy material are there, that is nothing but cellulose, and the outside hard material is there, that is a lignin component. Through lignin and through cellulose also we can derive many of the useful chemicals. Okay, but when we are producing those biogas, these polysaccharides, okay, whatever the polysaccharides, nothing but a lignin and cellulose, this will cause an inefficient conversion of this organic material to the methane gas. So they will limit the production of methane or production of biogas inside it. So we need to we need to minimize this one. So the composition of raw materials should be in such a way that it will contain some of the large part of cellulose components, and to some extent it will be a lignin, and to some extent it will be a chicken manure, to some extent it will be some of the waste paper. Okay, we need not to supply a large amount of any of these compounds. So we need to fix a certain ratio for this one. So in the normal process of methanogenesis, approximately 50% of the complex polysaccharide contribute to methanogenesis. When we are using these complex polysaccharides like lignin or cellulose, so obviously we cannot neglect this cellulose or lignin components, because these are the major sources of plant-based biomass. So cellulose and lignin are the major sources for the plant-based biomass. So obviously this will be around 50% of the raw material which we are supplying for the biogas. So large part of these compounds, these polysaccharide components, will only contribute for the methanogenesis or production of methane composition of biomass. So we need to fix this cellulose and lignin composition maximum to the extent of 50%, and rest will be the other components. So these are the major engineering problems which are encountered in the biogas plants. So, in summary, just in a few points, I would like to summarize this biogas plant. So, biogas is nothing but a mixture of gases produced by the breakdown of various organic matter. So, organic matter can be anything ranging from the animal organic matter, or it may be a plant organic matter. Okay, whatever the organic matter are there, there are two sources for the organic matter. One is the plant-based organic matter, and another one is organic-based organic-based biomass matter. So whatever the matter is there, when they are consumed by the methanogenic or the estrogenic bacteria in anaerobic condition, they will produce a CH4 and CO2, and to a small part it will be converted to a hydrogen sulfide and moisture and siloxanes. So whatever the conversion mechanism is there, our biomass or our biogas uh, uh, should be composed of a main composition as a methane and carbon dioxide. So we required, our primary goal is to convert whatever the organic matter is there into the methane, large composition as a methane, and to some extent it will be a carbon dioxide. Therefore, the other gases like this one, hydrogen sulfide or a moisture and siloxanes, needs to be suppressed. So it needs to be minimized. Then biogas is the perfect replacement for the conventional fuel in the Indian rural economy, particularly in the rural economy. This biogas is very much important because rural economy is entirely dependent on the agrarian activities or the agricultural activities. So in the agricultural activities, there is a much possibility that they will produce a large type of biomasses, whether it be plant-based biomasses or the animal-based biomasses. So the availability of biomass will be very much these biomasses will be very much available with the rural India. So for the benefit of a rural India and the boost out the rural economy, so biogas technology is very much important. So we are the pioneers in the biogas technology. So our first biogas at the Gopur Gas Research Plant is located in the National Sugar Institute, which is located in the Kanpur. So we are the pioneers in the biogas technology. So after digesting whatever the organic matter is there, the left out organic matter. So spent organic matter is a rich source of various nutrients and is a rich source of ammonia. So we can use this as a fertilizer in our agricultural activities. So then anaerobic digestion also functions as a waste disposal system. So whatever the organic matters which are produced or used can be used as a organic fertilizer. So this can be a waste disposal system. Then so this will have an advantage for the rural women who are just spending a lot of time in gathering the firewoods in order to combust them in a open environment. So to boost the to minimize the fire wood gathering activities of this Indian rural women. So biogas technology will remove their task of collecting this fuel wood gathering activities. And at the same time, when they are combusting that fuel wood in the open environment, they can catch many of the diseases like chronic diseases like respiratory problems, like lung cancer, heart ailments, everything. This comes under the chronic. Chronic means nothing but long lasting. Okay, they can't have any cure. Okay, long lasting problems. So using the biogas technology, we can minimize this chronic diseases in the rural India or whatever whoever combusting this firewood in the open environments, because firewood will produce the harmful gases. Those will be directly inhaled by the person which is cooking using this combustible firewoods. So using the biogas, this chronic diseases can be minimized, and at the same time it can increase the agricultural production activities because these organic fertilizers will have a much more nutrition value compared to other organic fertilizers. So agricultural activities and their productivity will be increased much more. Then the benefits of biogas will be it can be used in the rural India as for cooking and lighting purpose, where there are no much resources to cook like LPG, and at the same time there will not be a 24/7 electricity supply unlike the urban India. So in the rural India, it is much beneficial to use this biogas for the cooking and lighting purpose. And at the same time, this can be used in the biogas can be used in the internal combustion engines in order to power the electric generators. So electric generators largely we can use in the farming activities. So the particular farmer need not to wait for the electricity or the free electricity supply which government is going to supply. So they can directly produce their own electricity using this biogas. And the sludge obtained in the biogas is a nutrient which has a much nutrient value, is a perfect fertilizer for the perfect organic fertilizer for the many of the crops in the farming activities. So it will obviously boost out the farming activities, and it will increase the crop productivity. Then most economical benefits are minimized environmental pollution. So environmental pollution will be minimized because biogas is a clean which possesses a clean burning characteristics. Therefore they cannot leave any soot inside the engine or inside the combustion activities. They will not form any soot. So therefore this biogas will be minimized environmental pollution. Therefore this gas is called as a environmentally friendly gas. So this is also called as a gobar gas. Then what are the feedstocks required for the biogas? So feedstocks can be range from the animal based or plant based feedstocks. So these all the feedstocks needs to be digested. So we need to use the bacteria to digest this organic matter. So the bacteria like acidogens and the methanogens can be used to digest this biomass material. So there are four stages for the biogas production. One is the hydrolytic state, in which the high molecular weight
glucose components like cellular starch, protein, and lipids will be converted to the low molecular weight soluble products and organic acids. Then the next phase is acidifying phase. In the acidifying phase, the acidogens can be used to convert these low molecular weight soluble products to the much more organic acids and H2, CO2, and alcohol. Then the next phase is estrogenic phase. In the estrogenic phase, all the alcohol, hydrogen, and carbon dioxide will be converted to the acetane. Then these estrogens will come into a major role, will play a major role in converting this low molecular weight components like organic acid, H2, CO2, and alcohol to the acetate. Then the next phase is the methanogenic phase. In the methanogenic phase, methanogenic bacteria like methanobacterium Omeliansky, Methanobacterium Omeliansky, M. formicium, branti, this type of methanogenic bacteria will play a major role in converting acetate to the methane. So the following reaction will take place in this all these phases in converting whatever the alcohol formed, whatever the hydrogen and carbon dioxide formed to the methane and carbon dioxide. So if the raw material contains some of the sulfate forming components, so the large part of gas, the biogas will be, we can call this as a biogas. The large part of this manufacturing process will be H2S. So we need to suppress the sulfate components inside our raw material. Then the overall reaction is the whatever the glucose components are present will be converted to the methane and carbon dioxide using this overall reaction. Biogas plant. So the physical biogas plant will looks like this one, and the technical and the flow sheet of biogas plant will looks like this one. This is the reservoir for the storage of feed, and the reservoir in the physical plant is this one. So whatever the feed we are going to give to this digester will be fed inside this reservoir. So cow dung as an example, we are showing this mixing tank. In the mixing tank, all agitator will be there. So we will mix this mixing the raw material with the in a slurry composition using water or ammonia, carbon source, everything will be mixed inside this. A feed composition will be prepared inside this reservoir. So real plant in the real plant, this is a reservoir where the composition or the raw material can be mixed here using the slurry composition. Then this is the inlet inlet pipe towards the digester. So this digester can be constructed using the iron or a cement or brick or concrete using the concrete, depends on whatever the requirement we are handling. Then this needs to be maintained in a airtight container. This cylindrical shell or a digester or a biogas digester or a biodegradable digester needs to be maintained airtight so that we are supplying with a this gas holding tank. In this gas holding tank, this pulley will be there in order to tightly hold whatever the slurry we are supplying to the digester. When the methanogenic bacteria or the acidogenants just consume that organic matter, they will release gases. Depending on that released gases, this layer, this pulley will just operate and it will go to the top side. Then from the top side, whatever the gases are formed will be released in the gas outlet pipe using this gas outlet pipe. In the real plant, if you see, this is a gas outlet pipe. So after obtaining the gas from this one, we can use this for any type of domestic and commercial purpose. Okay, after digesting for 2 to 3 weeks, whatever the manure will be there, user slurry will be there. The slurry can be um, collected here and it will be stored for the fertilizer purpose as a fertilizer purpose. This is called a slurry outlet or the user slurry outlet or the manure outlet. So according to the research papers, many of the research papers they are reporting the ideal temperature for this digester will be 30 to 40 degrees centigrade and pH will be 6 to 8 pH, which is beneficial for this anaerobic bacteria. Then the slurry composition for water to solid to water is 1:1, and anaerobic conditions needs to be maintained by providing a airtight conditions inside this biodigester. Then the factors affecting the temperature and pressure. The first one is temperature and pressure. So temperature is around 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. pH is 6 to 8, which is good for the good biogas yield. So before fixing this temperature, we need to take consideration of raw materials which we are supplying and the surface environmental conditions on which we are going to synthesize the biogas. So initial research needs to be conducted before adding the raw materials. Then this needs to be a challenge in maintaining temperature and pH also. Then the slurry composition. So slurry composition will be fixed in such a way that the solid and water composition will be 1:1, and carbon and nitrogen component, or a solid and nitrogen composition, will be 30:1. So these by preparing a slurry in this composition range needs to be supplied to the digester. And before supplying, we need a good mixing, okay, in order to solubilize that organic constituents in the solvent like water and ammonium nitrate or ammonium phosphate. Then we need to maintain anaerobic conditions. So maintaining the anaerobic condition or airtight condition is very much benefit is a must required. So it will be a huge challenge for the biogas operator. So in order to maintain the airtight conditions or anaerobic conditions inside the biogas digester. Then the presence of inhibitors. So many of the components like ammonium sulfate and antibiotic, they will inhibit the methane production, and then at the same time many manures will produce a pig manure or chicken manure or agricultural waste will generate a ammonia, and at the same time waste papers will produce a sulfate compound. So when these components are there, there is a large tendency that particular gas will be result in the hydrogen sulfide. So therefore we need to suppress this one. Therefore, we need to fix a composition in such a way that they will contain all the possible biomasses. Okay, they need not to be supplied using one of the biomasses. There will be a mixture of many types of biomasses, so that we can obtain a quality biogas from inside the biogas digester. Then presence of complex. Then the next factor is the presence of complex material. Okay, many of the complex materials like polysaccharides, which are nothing but lignin and cellulose components, they will limit the methane gas production. So we need to suppress that one. So in the normal process, approximately 50% of these polysaccharides only contribute for the production of methane gas through the methanogenesis. So we need to fix the maximum amount of the cellulose lignin composition to the extent of 50%. So this is regarding the biogas production. If you have any doubts, you can just ask me. Okay, time is completed. Sorry. Okay, if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the next class. Sorry, I just take more than 1 minute. Okay, ready your doubts for the next class. Thank you for listening.